Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations with the Doctors, where health is wealth. Remember, this conversation is for informational purposes only, but of course, this is the greatest information you can ever put your hands on. As always, we're going to go around the board and we're going to introduce everyone that is here with us on this fantastic Monday evening. Remember, it's Magnificent Monday with Couch Conversations with the Doctors. I'm going to start with my coworker. That's Dr. Douglas Graham, who actually left us and um, went to California and kind of like hung out, and then he came back. But he is now back here in Chicago in this 91-degree weather, right along with the rest of us. Go right ahead, Doug.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm a retired physician. I worked in the Chicago area for many, many years. I've been working in the Congressman's office. I'm going to try and answer your questions if I can.
Simply fantastic. I want to say hey to Curtis Jones, who is here with us. Curtis Jones just chimed in with us. Our next person that's here on the board is Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller says that I threatened him each Monday night to be here, but I see that he shows right up on time, so I guess it works. Hey, Dr. James Miller, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Trying to stay cool on a warm day, but all is well, and glad to be here tonight. Hopefully, we can answer some questions and give some people some information to make their lives a little bit healthier, wealthier, and make them wiser.
Simply fantastic. To the guy who went on vacation and left us all high and dry, and everyone was looking for him on Facebook, and his niece chimed in every Monday night looking for her Uncle Terry, the urologist of the stars. That's our very own Dr. Terry Mason. Dr. Terry Mason.
Good evening, everybody. Congressman Davis, Nikki, all of my panel members. Really, really glad to see everybody. Grateful for the FDA announcement. So it's a good thing.
Simply fantastic. To the doctor who is known as the doctor who keeps it 100. She keeps it real on the streets of Chicago as she reels them in with her fishing net and gets everybody in order. That's our very own Dr. Maya, the Avenger chair.
Hey, Nikki, thank you for having me. Thank you to Congressman Danny T. Davis. Getting a little feedback. Are you all getting it too? And thanks to our, the doctors who many of you have taught me so much. I'm very glad to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Let's say hi to Linda Johnson, who has chimed in with us just as well. She's here with us on this evening. To the doctor who's the Wonder Dad, the one who has paved the roads of the highway these last couple weeks, taking his girls back and forth to school. And he thinks he's an empty nester, but no, that isn't true. That's our very own Dr. Pete.
Hey guys, good evening. I'm happy to be back. I got two of the girls off to college, so both of them are in Louisiana. So that should be a little bit convenient. I'm happy to be back and hopefully share some information so people can take better care of themselves.
And to all the people who are looking for Dr. P, there he is, live and in Technicolor. To the man who's the super doctor and the weight loss guru, who's also been tearing up the highway getting his sons back to school, and he tells us to eat meat. That's our very own Dr. Tony Hampton.
All right, I'm so happy Dr. Mason stepped away for a moment. but yeah, that is my life, is to encourage everybody to eat healthy, stay away from processed food, and I absolutely am excited. My kids are doing their college thing. We do so much for our babies, make sure they're okay, but our other babies are you, those who are listening. We want to make sure we help you guys, guide you, and hold your hand as you take your health journey. So happy to be here tonight, Nikki.
Wonderful. To our special guest that's here with us this evening, who has the car of my dreams, that's an Aston Martin. But he is also a fantastic cook. And Dr. Hampton, all of his food includes bread. Oh my God. That's our very own Roderick Martin. Rod, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone here?
Hi, everybody. I'm the newbie in the group. Good evening. God bless everybody. Stay safe. I'm the owner and founder of Agile Technologies, a company that provides COVID testing, vaccinations, and safety solutions to include germicidal and ultra bipolar ionization air purification and some other technologies that can be used to help keep people safe. And I'm an advocate of please test before being vaccinated.
And I see my good friend, and I'm going to spell her last name because I always tear it up every time I say it. Adeyemi is here with us, and she's saying, hello, everyone, and God bless you. To the man who makes this all possible for all of us, to the one who tells us that true wealth is health. And that's our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District, Congressman Davis. And I think the Congressman's volume on his computer is turned down. Turn your volume up on your computer. We can't hear you. Let's try that one more time. Well, I see the congressman is, well, let's see. I think he's muted. Let's try it now. And his audio is having some technical difficulties. I see Kimberly Scott is here with us. Hey, Kim, she's saying good evening to all. All right. Once again, the congressman is having just a little technical difficulty. So while he's working on those technical difficulties to get those together, I'll just shoot the questions while they troubleshoot his stuff on that end. So we'll go to questions while we're waiting on them to troubleshoot his audio on that end. So our first question of the evening says, I hear reports of 3 COVID shots. Is the third one the same as the booster? Don't you all grab that question at the same time?
I'll just start us off. Yes and no. I mean, it's not really, these are like just language issues, and it probably doesn't matter practically, but when you think about a booster, you think about giving somebody the vaccine who's already had a couple of shots, assuming they had Pfizer and Moderna, and they're like a fairly normal immune person. So you're just getting a booster to add some additional protection, because over time the efficacy of the vaccine starts to wane. So if you get these variants coming on board, you may get more people who actually may get the infection, although it still provides pretty good protection against severe infection, hospitalizations, and death. But when you think about a person getting a third shot, we've been doing some level of that already. So if we have somebody that we're immunocompromised, even before we got to this point, we've been looking at, should we give those people an additional dose, because they may need, when they start, if you're immunocompromised, you're not going to create an effective immunity because you're immunocompromised. I mean, that's the immune system's necessary to build your immunity. So for people who, even before we got to this, last week where we started this extra booster, we were actually looking at those people and deciding, should we give that person an extra dose? So it's like these words are very similar in terms of what really, what ends up happening. But ultimately, the booster I think of as people, like most people who don't have that problem, and you get a booster to make your efficacy better against getting the actual infection. And of course, the third dose is for those people who are really sick. Now, of course, we can give a booster to people who are immunocompromised also. So it's all technical language, but at the end of the day, you get that third dose.
So one of the things that I might add to it, folks, is that when we do testing, we do antigen testing, and we do. Am I getting some feedback, or am I okay? Okay, so we've tested literally thousands of people, and what we're finding is that for one reason or another, people they're not mounting the desired immune response in terms of producing antibodies. IgM antibodies being the early onset, and that dissipates, and then they have the long-standing IgG antibodies for protection. However, what we're finding is that a number of people who have been vaccinated have no detection on the antibody tests, and we have our FDA approved antibody test is 98+% accurate. So if a person has had the disease or been vaccinated, it's going to detect the presence of the antibodies. So those folks do need the initial boost, and just like Dr. Tony said, we've got a problem with nomenclature here, because you say dose booster, and people think that they're getting something different. And I'm so glad that you pointed out the difference between the folks getting the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine and Johnson & Johnson. Just a matter of opinion. I realized that the Johnson & Johnson was done for global purposes, for countries that would not be able to afford a double dose, and also be able to have the resources to deploy a double dose, and then future boosters. And then for the sake of variants, heck, as long as Delta or any other variant is out there, it's going to produce additional variants as well. So just like the flu, it's something that we're going to have to get used to until we get this thing under control, with a much greater percentage of the general global community and our continental United States community being vaccinated as well.
Oh, go ahead, Maya. Go ahead, Dr.
I was going to say, what people are saying is right on target. In fact, today, before the CDC said it, but today the city of Chicago is online. The definition of the doses we are seeing for people that are classified immunocompromised right now is not called a booster. It is called an additional dose. The additional doses that Dr. Hampton mentioned and Rob Martin mentioned are to complete your series. So what that means is, if I'm immunocompromised or my immune system is down, instead of the 2 doses, they're recommending a third dose 28 days after you receive the second dose for completion of your series of initial doses. All right, so that's an additional dose, not the same as a booster. A booster is what Dr. Hampton mentioned. You are complete. You initially have a complete dose, like we have done since I was a kid and before with the tetanus shot. I get my tetanus shot, I get my little series and everything like that. When I'm younger, I have my complete initial dose. Then 10 years later, I need a tetanus booster, because now my antibodies are we want to remind the body of the structure of what we're fighting against. For tetanus, every 10 years after the initial completion of a series of vaccines. So if I'm immunocompromised, I need that third dose right now. It's an additional dose to complete my initial series. And then what kind of is being talked about, and I didn't see any official guidelines out, is that 8-month booster. It's different. There's additional doses to complete initial series for complete vaccination, and then there's boosters in the future. So to be clear, there are no boosters out right now. There's just additional dose recommendation for completion.
Great explanation.
I think it's also important, Nick. I just wanted to mention, I agree with my colleagues and Rod. I think that we should remind our audience that as of today, our COVID-19 vaccines are highly effective in preventing severe disease, hospitalizations, and deaths. So we shouldn't, because sometimes, I went and got my hair cut, and I was shocked at what I was hearing in my barber shop. So they'll take this and run and say, see, they said it wasn't no good. Yeah, no. Wait. The vaccines are still highly effective. However, we just got this new variant out that's smart, and it's evolving, and it's doing the bob and weave action. Okay, and so that's when we believe that a booster might be effective 8 months out in order to remind, as Dr. Maya said, remind our immune system, hey, don't forget this guy. Don't forget to fight this guy.
And you know what? Just to put a cherry on top of the icing that Dr. Pete just put on the cake, some people relate to things a little bit different. So let's give everybody something that they can really chomp on right here. People who are not who don't get the vaccine are 25 times more likely to experience severe illness and be hospitalized. People who are not vaccinated are 25 times more likely to die. In that group that we talk about, the immunocompromised, there have been figures tossed about by the National Institute of Health and the CDC that they are 400 times more likely to experience certain severe illness. So that's just to give some perspective to everybody. And I just want to remind everybody that if you are exposed to the disease when you get the vaccine, you are likely to not mount the correct response and produce antibodies. And we're finding that in a very high percentage, in an unacceptable percentage of people.
Fantastic. Congressman, can you unmute and see if we got your technical issues on that side? Okay. If we can hear you now, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Okay. Congressman, can you hear us? All right, so we'll come back. We'll go to question number 2.
Nikki, before you go forward, could you repeat the last 2 sentences that you just said? I just want to make sure I heard it right.
So people who are not vaccinated are 25 times more likely to experience severe illness and require hospitalization, and they are 25 times more likely to die.
Okay.
Congressman, I see you've unmuted. Can you?
And oh, Dr. Terry, that's the data as it relates to the Delta variant. And I think it was Dr. Pete that it had a whole lot of practice. Yes, we have a little over 300 million people in the United States, and there were 1 billion over in India where Delta got its practice. So it got really good at being evasive and the viral load being so much higher. Because that viral load can be up to 1,000 times higher in the nose, and in the mouth, and then replicate up to 1,000 times more in the body. People do not realize that it doesn't take as long for them to become infected, and because of the amount of viral load they're exposed to, they will become sicker faster.
Yeah, I just want to add something to what you're saying there, Rod, and that is we have to understand that the viruses themselves cannot reproduce themselves. They must have a host that what they go and infect and use the machinery of the cells of the host to reproduce themselves. So that's why getting vaccinated is so important, because that then impedes these viruses from being able to replicate themselves. And then they get released in your body. And when you sneeze or cough or any of those sorts of things, that's how we put more of these things in the air for people to walk by and breathe in. And then those viruses go into their body and begin replicating themselves. So that's the way this works. And that's why we're so much information and so much push around vaccination, because without vaccination, we don't have a way even for these viruses that are out there right now to really slow them down. And because we're allowing them to freely, all the unvaccinated people are nice, juicy hosts for the virus. And they will go into those people and they will replicate like crazy or reproduce themselves like crazy. And when they sneeze or cough, then they're going to spray out more of these viruses that are going to infect us. And I just wanted to make that point.
And maybe just to fill in a little bit of the science, and I think Nikki's taking care of something. Now let's think about the population of children in school, everybody. Those who are less than 12 or 15 years old. Now we have a perfect storm of 20 to 25 or however many kids in the same room, where they can carry a higher mucus count or viral load anyway. You know, so now we've got the population, tens of millions of unprotected children who are going to be exposed as well.
All right, so I think we should probably notice that a couple of the questions that came in were similar, and I'll just say them, and I'll combine a couple just in case our guests have any comments. One is, you know, why do we need a COVID-19 booster, and will it be safe? I mean, I think we're kind of answering that question as we speak. The other question is, what are the side effects of the COVID booster? And maybe we can speak to that a little bit. So anybody want to tackle that?
So I'll address something really quickly. When they talked about the vaccines and the safety for children, there was this thing that came out about myocarditis, I believe. And there were 225 cases. Now, let's think about it, folks. There are approximately 367 million doses of vaccine that have been administered. And we're talking about 225 cases of something for which there is no specific test. So not until the children got sick did they get examined, and this got found. So we kind of have to look at, you know, the sequence of events, you know, as we're looking at safety.
Testing.
Hi, we can hear the person testing. And then, so the other thing, I do want to move to the question, Dr. Hampton, that you answered. I mean, you asked, why do we need the booster? You need a booster, just like we need I think I mentioned the tetanus booster that we need. And the reason we need boosters is because the immune system, the cells, as they replicate, sometimes they go to battle, and sometimes that immunity ability can die off, or we can lose that ability over time. Again, I think the one thing that's novel about the novel coronavirus is the novel coronavirus itself. We have needed boosters before. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're like, oh, booster, why? Because we've needed boosters before, and we need to all band together and make sure our bodies are protected. Grabbing in kind of what Rod said and so many other people, and this protection that they're saying is 70%. Some studies are showing 85% of the community have to be protected, but right now the solid number is 70% in order to protect our tribe. So we all have to come in and get that. So back to why we need boosters. So I'm an immune system cell. I'm busy fighting off coronavirus. What's going to happen? It's about to be flu season. What's going to happen is going to be all of this. So sometimes as our immune system goes along, protection, just like our brain, when you load it with a lot of things, I may be good at remembering, performing every day, but sometimes I need a reminder, just in simple terms, a reminder like, hey, don't forget the coronavirus is out here. COVID is out here. Get ready, because as you see, we have the alpha, beta, what else do we have? Lambda, now we got delta out here. When it comes back around, right? When Miss Rona comes back, I want my immune system to come back, right? And I want my immune system to come back every time Miss Rona tries to come back. So Miss Rona's back, so should my immune system be back, you know, every time, strong enough to fight it off and ready, not sleeping. And then when it comes back, we kind of do what we did before. Be like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? And then get ready. I want it to be ready so it can handle it on site. If y'all, I don't know why I did the little fist. Rosen came out on site. I needed to be handled on site. Not get prepped, go back, tell them my, you know, the rest of my lymph nodes and my bone marrow, like, oh, it's here again. Nope. I want to handle on site, quick, fast, get it over with. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be one of the people that's 25 times more likely to end up in the hospital. So I need the booster and I need the vaccine so it can get taken care of, period.
Yeah, may I just add one thing? People tend to be real skeptic about a lot of things, and the question is why this, why that, and why now? How do you know we need a booster and all these kinds of things? And as Rod Martin had pointed out before, is that we're able to test our body's response to the vaccine by testing the antibody levels, and so over a period of time, you can continue to study those people who've been vaccinated, and one has noticed that early on that the antibody levels may be at a certain level, and it may wane a little bit as the time passes. And those are indication that we need a little reminder, a little reinforcement, and a little more stimulation of the immune system. So that's how we know we need the booster.
And then, Dr. Miller, just to piggyback on what you said, number one, yes, the body produces antibodies when the person is exposed naturally. However, the immune response or protections are better with the vaccines. That has to be pointed out. And I will say this, folks. After testing thousands upon thousands of people and seeing it for myself, there are some people that their immune response is gone after 4 months, some 6, some 8, some 9. And it varies from person to person for whatever reason. And that is what's happening out in the streets, as they say.
Yeah, I think also what's important is people need to know that this is not uncommon, that like we always say in medicine, our patients don't read our textbooks, which means no matter what response you might think they should have, each individual patient and population might respond differently. And we have to adjust accordingly. So when people think, well, now y'all changing it, now you saying this. No, it's what we're doing in response to what the community needs. We would be irresponsible not to do that. And one example is that, like when we found out that there was a resistant strand of gonorrhea coming from the East and West Coast, we changed our recommendations for treating gonorrhea as a response to this resistant strain that was coming. We don't keep things the same just because, see, you said this and now you're changing it. No, we're changing it in response to what is happening that's different and that could potentially affect our patient population. Now, in the Midwest, we didn't wait until the entire strain got to Chicago. We changed our recommendations for ceftriaxone before that strain got here. So I just want people to know that this is a normal response, that health institutions should do this, monitor the data, and then respond accordingly.
And I thank you for that point there, Dr. Pete. One of the other things I want to say is that, and for the older folks on the line and in the audience, the problem is that that's the problem. That a lot of these people haven't lived long enough to really see what has happened. What we're seeing now is because of YouTube and cell phones and all this other technology that we bombarded with information. But I'm old enough to remember when we used to get boosters all the time. We used to have to get our tetanus boosters, like Dr. Maya said, but also we used to have to get other booster shots for whooping cough and polio and all kinds of things. And many people haven't lived long enough to see how vaccines get developed and what happens. So this is the first time many people have ever even been through this, not realizing that even to Dr. Tony's point, we do this every year for the flu vaccine. We have to go in, look at it, we guess what is going to be the circulating strain as best as we can, looking at other populations, other parts of the world. And then we go in and make that every year. And then you get the flu shot every year. Well, what is that? That's a booster, but it's a booster tailored to what the circulating viral strain is likely to be for that year. So everybody's getting all bent out of shape because we don't really understand. And those who are fighting vaccines, and I've said this before, you've not seen what polio does to people. I have. You know, when you live long enough to see what these viruses can do, and we see what's happening with this coronavirus. People are dying. People have people they know that are in their families that have been very ill. So just because you don't know doesn't mean it hasn't happened or that something is wrong. And just because you've not seen the steps that it takes, just every medicine you put in your mouth, every medicine that you get from the doctor's office has gone through a similar process as this vaccine. Because look at how many blood medicines you got for blood pressure, different medicines for cholesterol, different medicines for irregular heartbeats, different antibiotics for that. How do you think they all got there? They went through the same process. There was a testing phase. They tried it out on folks and went through the different phases, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when it was finally approved by the FDA like this is, so you just, this thing all happened out in the open. But this process is not new. It's what we do all the time. Every doctor on this panel, and even people that are not doctors on this panel, are very familiar with this process. That's how you get all the new drugs that you get. Same process.
Yeah, one of the things that we probably have to point out to people is that because of the effectiveness of the vaccines in the past, people are taking, they see they're getting vaccines, but they're not relating to by disease because they're not seeing these kinds of disease in the general public, and so they don't really they don't relate this particular instance in the same manner because there's a disease that they recognize. And I think that again, the fact that you haven't seen a lot of polio and whooping cough and all these other things around, that shows you that we've been able to produce effective vaccines in the past, and again they produce another effective vaccine. So we have to trust the process because it does work.
So Leanne Harris says, good evening. Mary Ballinger says, evening to everyone. She also says, indeed, Dr. Pete, everybody's body is unique, and for sure, Dr. Mason. And if I had to do a recap right now, I would have to tell you that Dr. Terry Mason says, keep living. I would tell you that our South Side brothers and sisters are a little animated because Pete tells you to bob and weave, and Maya puts those hands together. And of course, my West Side brother, we tap it out, right? Dr. Hampton, we just tap it out. Congressman, let's see if your mic is working right now.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just needed a little rest. And this is sort of like Health Day. I have been in direct contact with 10 physicians today, and 9 of them have been African American, and that's batting pretty good. We actually taped our sickle cell presentation for the ALC, and I'm sure all of you know Dr. Horace Smith, Bishop Dr. Horace Smith. He was one of the presenters, along with Dr. Hobbs from Seattle and Dr. Tassima, who's the head of a lab that deals specifically with sickle cell. But as I've listened, I was also reminded President Biden has been on television virtually begging people. I mean, I've never seen a president put the beg on as heavy as President Biden has been begging people to get the vaccination. And Saturday, we had our back to school picnic and parade, and we weren't necessarily putting the biggest focus on the health aspect of it. A big focus was on kids going to school, getting books and book bags and hot dogs and whatever. But 375 people were vaccinated, and people were screened and tested. As a matter of fact, I was tested earlier today because I happened to be in the presence of Reverend Jesse Jackson last Saturday at the Bud Billiken parade. And of course, both Jesse and Jackie are in the hospital. And once I heard that they were, immediately I ran over this morning as soon as I got here and got tested. And so far, I haven't had any difficulty or anything suggesting. But I think people have to take responsibility, you know. For me, it was absolutely the first thing that I did when I got here was to, and heard, I'd read the paper saying that Reverend Jackson and his wife, Mrs. Jackie Jackson, and I just think that any person who wants to be responsible want to try and make sure that they not only protect to the best of their ability themselves, but they should feel guilty if they endanger or put somebody else at risk. And I know a family that I interact with a little bit, and I was going to go and help them get their child tax credit established and set up. But I said to them, I'm not going to ask anybody to come to your house and fill out these forms for you and help you to get the $550 a month that you will get once this information is submitted to the Internal Revenue Service. I don't feel comfortable asking an accountant to come to your house if I don't know that you've been vaccinated and there are 3 people in the home, neither one have been vaccinated because I asked them. And one said that they were afraid. And I said, yeah, I understand that. But wouldn't you be more afraid not being vaccinated than you would be fearful of doing so? So, I mean, I think that we cannot let up, that we've got to keep a full court press on until we get more people recognizing that this is the number one line of defense, that there is no other defense that we know of, and we just have to do it. So thanks to all of you physicians and others who are promoting. I mentioned African American physicians, but I'm also thankful to all physicians. And Doug, you qualify for a lot of things. I'm not sure about being Black, but you got a lot of other qualifications. And thank you for the work that you do in our office every day. So I'm back, Nikki.
All right, simply outstanding. You know, Mary Ballinger says, yes, Dr. Mason, living is sure proof. Sister Bonnie says, go information doctors, good information doctors. Henrietta Holmes says she is watching with us. Linda Johnson says that is good. Prayers for Reverend and Mrs. Jackson, and absolutely Congressman. We're going to move on to our next question. You know, Tony, I think, are we at question 3 or 4?
I think we still got to knock down 3 a little bit.
Okay.
And I'll just comment on it. The question I tried to combine with the last was this idea of, what are the, side effects of the booster? And basically the side effects are the same as the previous vaccine. If you can't really talk about side effects of something you really haven't been doing, right? So it's kind of, we need more data. And we're scientists, so we don't want to put too much out there that's not evidence-based. Otherwise, it's expert opinion. And as much as expert opinion is important, data is better than expert opinion. So, but I will say this as an expert, you have to just know the side effects of the other versions, dose 1, dose 2. And I think we all are familiar with pain and fatigue, pain at the site of injection, swelling, and redness can occur in some people. Some people get a fever. Some people get a headache. Some people get chills and nausea, but I'll be honest, most people I talk to just personally, anecdotally, they say they get sore arm and they may feel a little under the weather. I was blessed in that I only had a sore arm for a half a day and did not have any trouble. So I think it's variable, as we discussed earlier. Everybody's different. And if you want, me and my colleagues would agree, if you want to have a strong immune system, then you take care of your body so that you have the proper foundation to create an immune response. So we'll say it 100 times, control your controllables and do the things that you can do, which is I have a nice meal that's being prepared. A lot of people leave their home and they run to those lines. I would probably still be in line right now if I went to a fast food place because the lines are off the chain. Nobody's cooking. But while I'm doing couch conversations with the legendary Danny Davis and my colleagues, my food's in the oven and it will be done in that hour that I'm actually spending time with you guys. So I think we need to do better prioritizing cooking at home and eating real foods, preserving our immune system. And that way, when we get that third shot or that booster, whatever you want to call it, we'll have a body that'll be adequately prepared to, provide immunity. So,
hey, Dr. Hampton, I'd like to tie off the end of that question in a kind of an interesting way. So a lot of lay people and regular folks talk about, the side effects of a vaccine that are not known because nothing tells the story like time. But let's deal with what we do know. Number one, this is something, and I think people underestimate just how hidden this can be. So layer 1 of the hiding danger is that 40 to 45% of people are asymptomatic. That's the number that's the first tree that it's hiding behind. So then what happens? We know that about 11% of people who are infected and exposed to the virus, even though they may not have any signs and symptoms, they fall prey to the long haul illnesses, which include bilateral pneumonia, cardiomyopathy, stroke, atrial fibrillation, diminished respiratory function, glaucoma, vascular diseases, hair loss, blood clotting, paralysis, and others. So when we deal with what's quantified that we do know, let's not worry. Let's not preoccupy ourselves with conjecture and anecdote and speculation about what side effects may be. Let's just deal with the things that we know people are going to be impacted. And in communities of color, we know we know for a fact that it's going to be worse in communities of color because of the already lack of great health care that you can get. And I'm going to say something that Nikki is going to perk up. Unfortunately, depending upon which zip code you live in, that may very well determine how long you live. For instance, in the last year to year and a half, African Americans have lost 3 years off of their life expectancy from COVID. That is not the case with everybody else. We've tested, my company has tested extensively down in Arizona and New Mexico with Native American tribes. Theirs is similar, but communities of color, folks have, I mean, think about it. When you look at your children, 3 years less of life expectancy. When you look at older folks. But now, Nikki, please talk about the difference in the life expectancy of the zip codes. And when you cross those things together, what happens?
I will definitely do that as our wrap up, because sometimes our viewers become angry when we don't get to their questions. So they not gonna throw tomatoes at me tonight. I'm gonna let them throw tomatoes at my end. Dr. Miller, Dr. Mason is gonna collect all of those tomatoes, but I'm not gonna let them throw tomatoes at me tonight. But I will definitely do that with the wrap up, or either Dr. Maya. She knows those numbers just as well when we talk about Garfield Park versus Austin versus Streeterville versus. So we'll definitely hit those zip codes and what that actually looks like when we are looking at life expectancy. Question 4 says, does all vaccines, Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson need the booster? And I think we answered that one, right? We answered that one. Question number 5 says, can these mutations and or variants cause false negative COVID-19 test results? If so, which test should you use and how often should you be tested? So Doug, you look like you got something to say. But either you're frozen
I really want to hear what Rod Martin has to say. I think he's going to be the man with the most information.
I'll do this really, really quickly. If a person is not vaccinated, you should literally be tested as often as you can stomach and take it. Because we are no longer a community of infected or uninfected or vaccinated and unvaccinated. Everybody can assume that they're going to be exposed, period. So how often should you be tested? Even if you're vaccinated, get tested once a month to find out if you still have antibody protection. That's a huge one. Get tested before you get the vaccines to find out if you are actually exposed and infected when you're getting the vaccine, which you should not be. Otherwise, we do antigen testing for active virus, which is early detection, and then we do antibody testing as well to eliminate the statistically as much as we can false positives and false negatives.
All right. Next question. Question number 6 says, do you all trust the rapid test? Oh, go ahead. Maya, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounded like the question was, if I get the vaccine, would it cause my COVID test to be negative when I had COVID? And the answer to that is there are no studies that show that if I get the vaccine, my COVID test will be falsely negative. There are no studies that show that. Some studies are coming down the pike that show if I have a variant, like a different type of COVID, some of the variants are making it hard, but I want to back that up with what we know about the coronavirus. The coronavirus is a virus that's trying to live and establish itself in the host. In this case, these are humans. So it's going to consistently mutate in a way that tries to escape a lot of things, tests, vaccines, things like that. Before you get nervous, if a virus, we learned this with HIV, if a virus can't replicate, it can't mutate. So if you want the virus to stop mutating, we have to reach that threshold. A lot of people in our community being vaccinated. And I want to look, when we look at the news and we see that there's a vaccine in different, certain areas, they're like these blanket numbers. Somebody got a dog. Oh, they're doing these, that's silver and gold. Anyway, there's these blanket numbers about people in the US, in Illinois, things like that. I want to be clear. That doesn't mean in my neighborhood, in my space, that 70% of the population are vaccinated. If you're in a space where people are not vaccinated, because the virus will go like water, it will go down the path of least resistance. I'm making my body less resistant to COVID by not getting vaccinated. So if I'm in a space where a lot of people aren't getting vaccinated, the chances that the COVID virus is heavier or more prevalent in that area is going to be high. So I can't just watch the news and say, oh, everybody else got it. COVID, like nothing else, test our ability to move as one human race. So if I want to get rid of the problem, I have to be part of the solution. So no, there's no data that says, oh, if I get vaccinated, then my test will be negative and I won't know anything. There is data that say that if I get vaccinated, I'm 25 times less likely to end up in the hospital or worse, dead. And so we talked about all the side effects. People asked about the side effects of the vaccine. I think Dr. Mason said this when I first got on here. He was like, oh, you didn't think about the side effects of COVID is what you need to be worried about instead of the side effects of the vaccine.
All right, and to the 7 people who just texted me about Maya saying there was silver and gold, they wanted me to tell you that silver and gold didn't kick that off. Pete's dog irritated silver and gold.
That was my dog, I admit.
And then silver and gold started barking, so they were all calling each other. They were calling each other.
Right. Hey, Nikki, just in case, I agree with my colleagues, but I also think that when people are talking about if they should be tested or not, I think they should make that decision according to their particular situation. So again, like Dr. Meyer said, if you've been vaccinated, that's one situation. If you're in a high prevalent area, that's another situation. If you've been exposed, if someone at your job, like Congressman Davis said, someone that he was exposed to, that's another situation. If if you're having symptoms, right, of a cold or upper respiratory tract infection, you can't smell or taste anything. So you should make that decision according to your particular situation. And it's the same way that you would do if you start urinating a lot and you were losing weight and you think you might have diabetes. You go in and you get tested for diabetes. So you want to make the same kind of health decisions according to what situation that you're in.
All right. Okay. Question number 7. Will President Biden make this vaccine mandatory? Congressman Davis, please share with President Biden that he should.
Well, let me just say this. We are a country that is based upon the principle that the people will know and people will make decisions. We don't like to make things mandatory in this country, except you got to follow the traffic signs. Otherwise, you get a ticket. But we believe that if you can provide people with the information and they become educated, they will then be in a position to make decisions. And so we're reluctant to talk about mandatory things. We are not reluctant, though, to talk about providing information. And democracy does not suggest that mandating is the only way to cause things to happen. Many people who define leadership suggest that leadership is getting others to do what you'd like for them to do, but because they decide to do it. And so mandating is not considered the best approach to democracy, but giving people the reason, the rationale, the information, and then having them make their own decisions. I think I indicated earlier that President Biden looked like he was about to cry. I mean, conveying to people how important. So I certainly appreciate the position of the questioners, but we'll try to do it a little different. And rather than mandating, let's provide enough information. Let's provide enough understanding. Let's generate enough humanity so that people will have all those reasons to make sure that they protect themselves and others as well.
You know, Congressman, I really appreciate what you just said. But at the same time, I think as a physician, and this is not from the congressman, this is Terry Mason talking. But as a physician, you know, I've heard, in fact, I was doing a radio show today, and they were talking about that same question came up. And I said, well, it's not that it hasn't happened. We have several vaccines right now that are required for your being able to participate in going to school or in other kinds of things. And why is that so? Because I think to Congressman Davis's point, people of goodwill who see the value in trying to protect not just themselves, but everybody will see the logic in strongly encouraging people to make themselves do the right thing. And what we have as a society, we have a responsibility to make sure that we do what's best for the overall society. That's our obligation. And we have to base that information, those things, on the facts of what these diseases can cause. And I'll go back, like I said, a lot of y'all weren't here back in the days of iron lungs for kids with polio that couldn't breathe. And we had wards and wards and wards of these things. And some of the other diseases, diphtheria, whooping cough. You didn't see how these kids suffered with these diseases. And right now, we've had hundreds of thousands of people already die from this disease. And when does your right have the right to infringe on my right? When does your right to not do something infringe on my right to make sure that I have a safe workplace to go to, that I have a safe environment in which to do what I have to do to make a living for myself and my family? So I think that's the broader conversation. And I think that we get caught up too much on some of these issues around so-called freedoms. You know, we have to be careful about that. And we need to make certain that we're being mindful that your freedom is at a cost, and that we have to make certain that we can respect each other's freedom, but also protect each other from the things that not having those things in place might help to spread.
Well, Dr. Mason, people are going to see that quicker than we think, because guess what? With the political climate of the last 4 years being so adversarial, so antagonistic, and so tribal, it has resulted in 5 or 6 states right now having few to no hospital beds available, almost no intensive care unit beds available. So guess what, folks? If you are in Texas, Florida, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, or other states, be careful and don't even get into an auto accident, because the care you may need, you may not be able to get.
And don't leave out Miami, because everybody's flocking to Miami and Vegas, and they hotbed with no beds.
Pretty much.
And Instagram and Facebook are saying, speak Dr. Mason, that's deep, say it Dr. Mason, Bishop. So Bishop Terry Mason, we gonna pass the collection plate, because Bishop, once again, you done took us to church. You got Dr. Maya sitting on the edge of her seat about to sing a hymn, and Deacon Miller is over there ready. So
A&B selection.
A&B selection. How you gonna sing it? A and a B. All right, you done took us there again. There she is. Tamika Thomas said, "Hey, Uncle Terry." She's been looking for you. She's been looking for you. Hey, Tamika. Well, I want to tell Wilbur Cook, we are sorry we can't get to your questions, Wilbur, because I know you guys hate when we say this, but we are at our time. But I promise, we're going to bring those questions back because he definitely wanted me to share that question that he has with Dr. Mason about some fitness things that he has and some eating. So we'll definitely save that one, and that will be number one on next week, and we'll get to some more information just as well. Thank you guys so much. As always, meet us back here next Monday night, same bat time, same bat channel. Remember to do the following things for us, and that is to social distance, wash these things here, and like Dr. Maya always says, don't forget to get in here. Don't forget that thumb and around in here. Don't forget to do that. And please, 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 wear your face coverings. Wear them. I don't have mine sitting here like I usually do, but wear your face coverings and make sure that it is over your nose and mouth, not on your chin, not on your forehead. Make sure it's over. There we go, Doug. Thank you so much. Make sure that it's over your nose and mouth and it is worn properly. Thank you. Make sure it's worn properly. Thank you so much, Rod. As we go around the table, as we always do, we're going to have your until next Monday. So, Dr. Miller, until next Monday, what would you like to share until next Monday?
Well, it's hot, and I'm just reminded of when I'm outside. I'm reminded of the discomfort, and being reminded of the discomfort of just the environment. It also reminds me of the discomfort that people have when they are sick, and So again, the issue here is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can prevent you from getting something, it's going to be so much better than you get it and having to try to get over it and may not get over it. So use your intellect, use your smartness, and as always, I say, just make certain that the sources that you are following and believing in, that they're credible sources. Make certain that what the people that are giving you the information are qualified to give you the best information, because that's what you need. You need the best.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. Dr. Douglas Graham, you're until next Monday.
I want to add to what Dr. Miller said, and just think about who I trust and why. And that is, in my field and in my specialty, you could not go a year or two without hearing from Tony Fauci and watching critical decisions made, experiencing how things were handled, different life-threatening diseases, different pandemics. So there's a 30-year history of experience with this man and his decision-making and the mistakes and successes that he had. So when he says something, I have tremendous respect and trust in what he has to say. So that's why I think what Dr. Miller says is really critical. And the other really sad part about this is there are many of these people who are anti-vaxxers who now own stock in those medications used to treat the disease. So there's having what we call a conflict of interest. They may say, don't get the vaccine because they want you to get sick and use their medications. So I think you really have to be careful out there in terms of who you're trusting and what they're saying and why they're saying it.
All right, Dr. Terry Mason, you're until next Monday.
I think we've said what needs to be said. And at the end of the day, I think that we want to do for ourselves what we would want others to do. And I got vaccinated, not just for me. I got vaccinated for my family, my daughters, my grandkids, and everything else. So please make a decision. Don't be selfish, because you really don't have a good reason. But don't be selfish, and please don't ignore the vast amount of great information that helps support the idea to become vaccinated.
All right, Rod, what do you want to leave with the people until next Monday?
Number one, don't let your guard down. Number two, get tested and know your status. Almost half of the people who are exposed to COVID and infected do not have signs or symptoms. So please don't rely upon thinking that you have to have signs or symptoms. If you get tested, get your entire family tested. And because of the Delta variant, people who are vaccinated are carriers of this disease. So please know your status. Also, the last thing, because only about 39 or 30 or 40% of the Black community in the Chicagoland area is vaccinated, which is about half of what it needs to be, we really do need a grassroots campaign to educate in the communities, in the churches, in the community-based organizations to get the word out, to get the information out. And I will be one of those soldiers. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Tony Hampton, you're until next Monday.
I just want to do a little shout out to, Dr. Mason, just because he spoke like the public health leader that he is. He made a public health announcement when he said, you have an obligation to do what's best for all of us. And if you think about it, I mean, that's why we have police departments and fire departments and things like that. We do what's in the best interest of all of us. And sometimes that means that we can't do things that we personally would do. But at the end of the day, we have to think about our neighbors, our friends, and families. I also want to think about what Congressman Danny Davis said, because he talked about leadership. It resonates with me because I'm a leader within my health system. And it's a privilege to be a leader. But leadership, as was suggested by the congressman, is not about telling people what to do. It's about working collaboratively with people, rather it's your friends, family, neighbors, to help solve problems together. So as you learn and grow and share with your family the things that we're sharing, make sure you have conversations with dignity and respect, honor how they feel, honor what they're thinking, but at the same time, you nudge them towards the direction that I think the experts are sharing, which is we need to vaccinate more people. So let's lead our communities in the right direction and don't give up hope. I do believe that people will hear you. You just have to talk to them and honor them and be decent about it. That's what my words are.
All right. Dr. Maya Green.
I'll say two things, so I'll be quick. I know, Rod, you mentioned, hey, we need a grassroots effort. Those people on this call know me. You down, make a move, because we'll be doing it for our community. Make a move.
All right, let me do this for you.
I said, make a move. And I want to give a shout out to all of these doctors on this panel who have been doing the work in the community, the grassroots every time, even down to, if you look at Dr. Mason's face, as calm as he is, you make a move, he gonna show up for the community. He gonna walk, he gonna be cool and suave and good, all of that. But make a move, let's do it. And so the other thing I want to say is to double down on what Dr. Miller said. Kind of in my language, I want to say, don't let your hot girl, hot boy, hot person summer turn into a quarantine COVID fall. So let's just do what we have to do to protect our tribes. We have to continue to get educated. I want to mention something that I think Dr. Mason mentioned at the beginning. Now there's more approvals for some of the vaccines, and so they're more, and with approval is kind of more information for those that were waiting on final holistic approval. Now is the time. Pfizer was holistically approved. Let's do it.
All right, Dr. Pete, you're until next Monday.
Yeah, Nikki. First of all, I'm honored to be a part of this panel. These guys are just hitting it right on point. And just to culminate what everybody was saying, I illustrate this point. Sometimes when I'm giving talks, I'll talk about John Snow, who is considered to be the father of public health. And when there was a cholera outbreak in the mid 1700s, he pulled the Broad Street pump where he thought the cholera outbreak was coming from. Now, keep in mind, you were shutting off water to a number of communities that was not getting sick. But the responsibility of leadership is to do what's right for the overall community. And so, I just want to encourage everybody to, like my colleague said, you don't think about yourself, but think about what's good for the entire community and look at it from a data perspective. And let's be honest, everybody you're listening to on Facebook is not necessarily qualified to make the comments that they're making. So, and it's interesting that people are on Facebook talking madness, but the madness to some people, and to Dr. Hampton's point, I don't want to turn people off. I'm telling you, I was at the barbershop and I was listening to, it was unbelievable. Okay. But I wanted to hear more. Where'd you get this from? Who said that? Oh, okay. So what university did they go to? I mean, I'm just like, I'm asking questions, but at the same time, you know, so I think we have to listen to each other. We have to be respectful to each other. And then we got to call it as it is. At a certain point, I was like, okay, I've had enough. Now, here's what it is. Like in the words of Dr. Meyer, here's what it is. Okay. But be respectful and, you know, have leadership do what's best for the entire community.
Simply fantastic. Right before I bring the congressman to give our final thoughts for this evening, I never do a your thoughts until next Monday. I don't, because I just love to hear you guys, and I love the great information that you give. But tonight I have been led by Bishop Terry Mason to make sure that I share just a few of my final thoughts with you. And I'm actually going to piggyback off Dr. Tony Hampton's statement when he brought up the leadership of the congressman. You know, my boss hates accolades, and I'm not giving him accolades. I'm giving facts to the community. And here are just a few facts, because there are so many. There is not enough time in a day for me to give you 50 of them, but I'm going to give you just a few. Who thought of a Second Chance Act? Who really had their mind set for the people? Danny Davis. Who thought of home visiting for health care and made sure that it happened and stayed in place? Danny Davis. Who thought of home care and kinship care for children who were in care of the state, meaning wards of the state, those who had trouble in their home? Danny Davis. Who thought enough to write a sickle cell surveillance bill to make sure that he was looking out for those who were in crisis and had health issues and needs? Danny Davis. Who thought enough of law enforcement to come up with something called VRI to make sure that we had money to try to combat violence on the street? Danny Davis. Who came up with and supported CARES Acts and stimulus packages and making sure that those things got out? Danny Davis. Who made sure that extra vaccine came to areas? Danny Davis. But who stepped outside of his congressional box and decided that we needed to target zip codes that were hard hit to aid our public health systems in getting people vaccinated? And our office alone has done a little over 20,000 vaccines targeting zip codes in hard-hit areas with these set of doctors right here on this Monday night conversation. Even though Dr. Terry Mason said, I'm not going to shoot anybody, but I'll come draw up. And Dr. Miller said, I'm going to come supervise. And Pete was stabbing people. I mean, sticking people. I mean, giving vaccines. But that was Danny Davis. So I want to remind you guys, once again, we have these spurts of different variants, and we have these spurts of high levels of positives that are happening. Once again, Danny Davis wants you to meet us Friday. Dr. Miller and Mike Green. Yeah, I haven't called you yet. I'm calling you later. Meet us Friday at the JLM Center between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. for testing and vaccine. Meet us there at that time. JLM is located at 2622 West Jackson Boulevard, where the host pastor is Pastor Johnny L. Miller. So we are asking you to meet us there on Friday between those hours to do what? Let's just get vaccinated. And we're going to have fun doing it. In the words of Dr. Maya, we're going to slay as we vaccinate. So meet us there. Come, you ain't had nowhere else to wear your prom dress to. Wear it to the church on Friday and come and get vaccinated. Our closing remarks, as always, will be by our very own Congressman Danny K. Davis.
Well, let me just say thank you again, but let me also say that there are individuals who are advocating that the booster shots should not be so available in the United States of America when there are millions of people around the world who don't have any shot. And one of the things that I really want to do is praise the leadership of America for helping to make the vaccine available to other countries, underdeveloped nations, countries in Africa, countries, because we're all kind of in this together. And I know that many of us take the position that charity, my mother used to say, charity begins at home. And I really didn't know what charity was. And we didn't always know what she was talking about. And so we would try to dissect what she really meant in terms of saying, you know, if we killed the hog, I grew up on a farm, before we could eat the pig, we had to take some of it down the road to our neighbors. And, you know, we just kind of thought that was kind of ridiculous. I remember Christmas time, before we would have our Christmas dinner, I'd have to take a cake to somebody who was sick. Or when we got through slaughtering the pig, my mother would fix up several batches and dispense us to the neighbors and take them a shot of the action. And our country is going above and actually helping to provide access to the vaccine to other nations. And so if I was going to tell President Biden anything, I'd want to tell him, thank you for thinking of the world, just as we think of the United States of America. Because if we don't arrest spread of the virus, I don't think we'll ever be safe if other countries, third world countries, aren't able to protect themselves as well as we're able to protect ourselves. And I know that there are probably those who won't necessarily be in agreement with that. But I think Dr. Martin Luther King would be in agreement with it. I think there are many others. Mahatma Gandhi would be in agreement with it. And I see no reason that our country, the United States of America, can't be in agreement with it, because as we save others, we also help to save ourselves. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, doctors and non-doctors and lay persons and business persons and researchers and scientists for trying to help make the world a better place in which to live. We have a tough decision. We're actually right now in recess, subject to the call of the chair. And I don't know how long we're going to be here tonight before we determine or feel comfortable that we have enough votes to pass the items that we want to pass, which means that things are tough, things are challenging, things are difficult, but yet we have to keep the faith and keep believing that we can overcome. And I thank you for having that kind of faith. I'm told that if you had the faith of a mustard seed, little old tiny seed, and say to the mountain, be moved, that the mountain can get out of the way. And I think that's what it really takes to make America become the country that's never ever been. And yet, the country that we all know it has the capacity to become. So thank you very much. I don't know how long we'll be here tonight, but we'll just wait and see. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.